Hello and welcome into the Skraby Show for February 17th, 2026. Thank you so much for joining me. I was just literally typing in my daily gripe, and I gotta type it in before I forget it, because if I forget it, it's a good one. So there we go. It's done. Hope everybody had a good 3-day weekend, or hope you had a good weekend if you did not have a 3-day weekend. I had a massive headache all weekend, so that was fantastic. I love when I have a headache during the days that I don't have to work. I don't usually get headaches, but this one was really, really, really bad. And I don't know why it wouldn't go away. But I continue to drink water and hydrated myself, and I feel a lot better. So thanks to everybody who is joining me here tonight. If you want to watch, you can go to Facebook, 97.3 The Fan. You can go to my YouTube at The Skraby Show, SKRAB as in boy Y. And then you have YouTube for 97.3 The Fan, and then X at Matt Skraby or at 97.3 The Fan SD. You can also go to the Odyssey app and type in 97.3 The Fan or The Skraby Show, and you can listen on the Odyssey app and the chaptering and all that. So obviously, we're going to talk about everything that the Padres did over the weekend. Maybe not everything, but the main parts of it this weekend. We left on Friday thinking, hey, we got some holes to fill on this team. We got some bench spots to fill on this team. We need a couple more pitchers for the end of the rotation. Well, they got that and more. I mean, it was a floodgate opened of signings for the Padres. And I know that there are some people out there thinking, man, they really signed the great guys, because they sign, guys that maybe have had their best days already. But they're the way that they sign these guys, the amount of money that they sign these guys to, and the amount of options that they have now is huge. And if you're gonna throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks, I mean, that's kind of what AJ Preller is doing here. Which pitcher and which hitter is going to stick? And he's got some over the years that have stuck. And so I believe that there's at least one guy in this group that they signed that will contribute to this team a lot this year. And I'm going to take Nick Castellanos out of it, because I think Nick Castellanos, I think we know he's going to contribute this year. And of course, as soon as I saw this, I remembered all the Skraby shows where I was saying, I don't think they have room for him. I don't think blah, blah, blah. But if they sign him for like $1 million or something, then I'm all for it. Well, they signed him for $780,000. So that is a steal. A steal. The Phillies are paying him $20 million. And I'm just happy the Padres got him, because I'm sure that a lot of other teams wanted him. And yes, his stats have gone down over the last 3 seasons. I think there's a lot that goes into that. And I was planning on doing this later, but I guess I'll do it now. I reached out to some of the Philadelphia Odyssey sports radio people, and I asked them some questions about Nick Castellanos. And I have some answers about Nick Castellanos. One of my favorite things to do is reach out, or go to the local radio station and see, or news, and see what their opinion is. And so I contacted Joe Giglio from WIP in Philadelphia, and I just asked him, do you think Nick Castellanos has something left? The answer, he still has something left, though it's probably best if it comes against left-handed pitching or soft-tossing righties. Power righties with good stuff will give him trouble. Okay, it's fair. You can put him in the right position. Everything should be okay. I asked him if he was a bad for the clubhouse guy. Joe said, I don't think he's bad for a clubhouse. He's different. He's unique. I also think what happened last year was the culmination of a player unable to accept decline, and how it changes his role on a team once he was once considered and treated like a star. He is not a bad dude. And then I said, do you think he can improve the Padres this year? He said, yes, but marginally. Could have had the kind of year where he runs into a good number of game-winning RBIs. He has a knack for it. Oh, is everybody like that? Let me do that again. He could have the kind of year where he runs into a good number of game-winning RBIs In parentheses, he has a knack for it, but we're not talking about the kind of player that lifts up a club by himself. I understand that. And that's not what I thought Nick Castellanos was going to do at this point in his career. But all of those responses to me make me feel a lot better about everything. If there was a response like, yeah, he was causing lots of problems in the clubhouse, he was doing this, he was doing that, maybe I wouldn't have been so eager to welcome him to the San Diego Padres. But also, one of the things that Chris said earlier that I think is very true is that they're not going to let a guy who's going to mess with the mojo into this clubhouse. The clubhouse is set. They will accept guys. We've always heard the different players that come in and say that the Padres clubhouse is very accepting. But I'm not worried about the attitude just because they're not going to bring in a guy who's going to have a bad attitude. It seems like Nick Castellanos knows that his career is coming to an end in the next few years, and so he just wants to contribute. I think this is a great move. I do. And for the $780,000 veteran minimum, I think this is a move that you can't be mad at. And if you are mad at it, then I guess hope for him to do poorly so they can get rid of him. But I don't think that he's going to do it poorly enough to not be able to stay on this big league team all season long. He's not going to be an everyday guy. I think that he's probably going to be a DH on days that, as Joe said, left-handed pitching or soft tossing righties. So they have options now. And those are the options we were talking about last week. We just wanted options. And I didn't honestly think that Nick Castellanos would be a Padre. But once it happened and once I started reading more and once I started paying attention to some of the Philadelphia sports people and what they said about Nick Castellanos, it seemed to me like he's a valuable addition to a team. Maybe not as he used to be, maybe not the superstar or star that he used to be, but now he can come to a team and he can just do his thing. He doesn't have to carry a team to a championship. Gonzo says him and Manny going to be the new Bash Bros. That would be kind of fun, actually. That would be kind of fun. Speaking of Manny Machado, he said on Saturday that he would like for AJ Preller to have an extension. And guess what? He did get an extension. So AJ Preller is now locked up for the next 3 seasons. And there's so much audio out there that I just can't begin to decide where to start. So 97.3 The Fan SD on Twitter or 97.3 The Fan on Facebook, you can see all this, but the John Seidler, owner of current control person for the Padres, he said that the reason it took so long with AJ is he likes to have these meetings face to face, and he's an old school guy that way, and their schedules didn't mesh well, and so they finally got it done when they got out to Peoria, and it's in the past. And I do believe that. I do. I do believe that schedules get a little bit crazy, but I'm just happy that it's in the past now. No one has to ask these questions anymore. No one has to, point out the fact AJ doesn't have a contract extension anymore. They can move forward with this and they could do the right thing. They can make decisions knowing that AJ is still in place. But I saw all the comments over the weekend about how the Padres are dumb for doing this. I really don't see what the haters see when it comes to AJ Preller. I mean, this is a move that I think was necessary. This is a move that I think needed to happen. I don't even know where this team would go after AJ, say AJ left after this year. I don't know where they would go. I would think that a new GM would come in and make a bunch of changes. So I am not sitting here and saying that they're going to win a World Series because AJ Preller has been extended. What I am saying, though, is that AJ Preller is one of the better GMs in all of baseball. And I think you have to keep guys like that, even if they didn't win a World Series. He does everything He's like a mad scientist. He knows what he's doing. He pushes the buttons. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out. But over the weekend, he brought in pitching depth, bench depth. He brought in, back of the rotation depth. He brought in an old fan favorite, Ty France. So there were many players that he brought in. Griffin Canning, Herman Marquez. I know I'm forgetting them right now, but Miguel Andujar last week. So there's so many different ways they can go, and that is what we didn't have last week. You don't need a superstar in every position. You just need to build your roster around guys that can contribute when they're called upon, and your superstars are going to have to superstar. So Manny, Fernando, Xander, those guys are going to have to superstar this year. Jackson Merrill, Jake Cronenworth. I think Jake doesn't have as much pressure to be a superstar because he wasn't paid to be a superstar. But definitely Manny, definitely Fernando, and I would have to say Xander Bogaerts. They're going to have to, and Jackson Merrill. Those four are going to have to step up big this year for the Padres because those are the players that are going to win you a World Series. Guys like Nick Castellanos and Ty France are guys that are going to help you get to a World Series, not help you win it. That's not true. Let me take that back. They can help you win it, but they're going to help you throughout the season get there. And you need those guys in place. And so I'm a fan of these moves. I'm a fan of AJ Preller being extended by the Padres. And if you're someone who is like, you know what? I don't believe in AJ whatsoever. Well, if you look at playoff appearances since 2014, which is when AJ Preller was hired, believe it or not, I guess you will believe it, the only team to make all 12 appearances, the Dodgers. That's pretty incredible, I have to say. 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So here's why I'm bringing this up. Not to name off the Dodgers playoff appearances, but if you're someone who says, well, AJ doesn't really do anything for this team, he doesn't make it to the big games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's only 11 teams in baseball that have made the playoffs more times than the Padres. That's not a lot. It's not a lot. You're looking at teams like the Dodgers, the Astros, the Yankees, the Braves. Now, the Guardians, that's impressive because they don't spend a lot of money, but they've made the playoffs 7 times since 2014. Brewers, same way. They've made the playoffs. The Cardinals have spent money. Cubs, Blue Jays, Rays, that's impressive. Red Sox. So outside of the Guardians, the Brewers, and the Rays, all of those other teams have huge payrolls and are able, and they're in big markets, and they're able to take advantage of that. So again, AJ Preller has made the playoffs 4 times since 2014, all of them since 2020, mainly because when he got here, it was a different landscape for AJ. He wasn't able to spend the $300 million on Manny Machado. It was just a different landscape. So if you really want to look at what he's done since the 2020 season, there's 5 teams that have made the playoffs more times than the Padres since 2020. Only 5 teams. That's a pretty good job. I will take a top 5 playoff appearance rate any day. The Padres have made the playoffs 4 times. 2020, 2022, 2024, 2025. And I know for people out there saying 2020 doesn't count, it does count because if the Dodgers are going to count it and the Braves are going to count it and the Astros, then we're going to count it as well. But the other teams on that list, the Blue Jays only made it 4 times since 2020. The Phillies 4 times. So what I'm trying to say here is that AJ Preller is a good general manager for this team, president of baseball operations. I think they call it a POBO now, president of baseball operations. I don't know. I mean, if they would have had in an alternate universe, would someone else been able to do this? I don't think so. AJ Preller knows how to wheel and deal. AJ Preller knows how to work the money. AJ Preller knows how to build a team. And I think that a lot of us would be very sad if AJ Preller were to go and be a GM of another team. I think those are things that that's a thought I never want to have. Is, oh man, AJ Preller is going to be a GM of another team, and maybe one day he will, but I think he really wants to make it happen here. Okay, James. The playoffs were expanded from 4 to 6 teams in 2020. Without the expansion of the playoffs, the Padres only make the postseason in 2024. Okay, yes. But they did make the postseason. They did. Like, just because it's 6 teams now doesn't take anything away from them, because there were still more teams that had to, they had to beat out to make the playoffs. I do not accept arguments like that. Who cares if they were expanded? Everyone was expanded. It's not like the Padres are the only team that had to crawl through the mud to get to the playoffs. It's all fair for everybody. KG makes a good point. It's also impressive that we have made it as many times as we have, considering we are in the NL West. That is true. Dodgers, Giants, and James, I don't want to come down on that, but come on. We can't do that. It's like the people who said last year, well, the Padres wouldn't be in the playoffs if they didn't win all those games to start the year. But they did. They did. All right. When we get back, what did I have planned? Oh, I know what I wanted to do. I wanted to talk a little bit about the back end of the rotation now. I just saw my sheet. Sorry, everyone. All right. That is, this is the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan. When we get back, we'll talk a little bit more about the back end of the rotation, and we have more to go here on 97.3 The Fan. Matt Skraby broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios. We know how. We're going to talk about the pitching rotation here in a second because there's a lot of different options now. We spent a lot of time in the last couple of weeks talking about JP Sears, Randy Vasquez. Well, now we got more to talk about because there's Griffin Canning now. There's German Marquez now. There's Walker Buehler now. Marco Gonzalez now. Tristan McKenzie now. And there is still Matt Waldron. I should mention him as well. But we'll get into that in just a second. What I wanted to bring up real quick was I was going through some of the audio that Sammy Lev gathered while he was out of Peoria over the weekend. This one happened yesterday morning. So this is something I haven't really heard from the players, but what was going through your mind when you heard that Mike Shildt was stepping down as manager of the Padres? And so I was going through and I saw Xander Bogaerts commented on it. So here is Xander Bogaerts. He kind of like morphs into several different things. He talks about all the changes in the organization this offseason. And of course, where is it? Oh, I know why. See, you're on the board by yourself. You're bound to forget something.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of happened quick, Was I surprised? Yes. I show up, I work, and I try to help the team win, and I think that's got to be the focus for most of the guys, So having someone like that, our manager leaving, I mean, that was new news to me. It was tough news. Shared the same team for a couple of years. Even my first year here, he wasn't a manager, but he was in an organization, so it's tough, but getting no stamina. I didn't play with him either. I just missed him by a little bit, I think. My first year here, I think he was kind of rehabbing. He was trying to do a comeback. So I'm seeing him in the weight room, just trying to do his best to get the comeback, So I know he's a hard worker. So looking forward to that.
How about your hitting coach, too? I know you were tight with Victor, but how about Steven Souza?
I mean, Vic helped me throughout my whole career, I mean, he was definitely my first coordinator with the Red Sox back in the days, when I was coming up. So he definitely taught me a lot. Being with him a couple years here was very nice. I mean, if it's one guy that I had a lot of memories with, it was that guy, and a lot of good ones. As I said, he helped me out a lot, and I'm very thankful for him. I always let him know. I played against Souza a lot with Tampa, being in the same division with him. So hopefully, I mean, we learned a couple things from him, and.
All right, so that's what Xander Bogaerts had to say, and I think we talk about this when NFL coaches get fired or NBA coaches get fired. And it's definitely true. Like some of the players feel bad when a coach retires or get fired. Well, I guess Mike Shildt didn't get fired, so it's not like he should feel bad, but it is a shock to the system. And it's also like, wait, we were doing a good thing here, and now all of a sudden you're out. And obviously we know that Mike Shildt retired because of the stress that was happening. Yes, he does have another job, but we don't really know what that job is. I believe Mike Shildt. He stepped down because he was having trouble with all of the different areas that he was being pulled into, and I don't blame him. Honestly, it seems like a lot. That's why I don't know what's going to happen with Craig Stammen when you get into like game 132 and they lose a tough game. Like it's not always going to be easy, and I know this because when sometimes questions are asked, I get a little angry. And so if I'm asked that question like 75 times, I would definitely be angry. Dwayne says, Skraby, you've been scheduled for remedial board training next week. Here's what I did. In the radio board, I was recording something with Tony before he left. Did not put program back in. That is the problem. But anyway, if Xander Bogaerts can have any sort of successful season, that would be greatly appreciated. Mr. Bogaerts. I almost called him Mr. Bogey, but that's not his name. Okay, so the back end of the rotation. You got the fourth and the fifth spot. You have Musgrove, you have King, you have Pivetta, and we did kind of pencil in Randy Vasquez in the 4 spot. I do think that Randy Vasquez still has that upper hand on the 4 spot. Because of what he's done in the last couple of years, what he did at the end of last year in September. He was great. He was trending in the right direction. So I do think that Randy Vasquez has the upper hand on the 4th spot. What I'm thinking is that the 5th spot is really where everything's up in the air because you have no idea how some of these guys are going to pitch. German Marquez, he was with the Rockies for a really long time. Tony was saying earlier he was still throwing 96, 97 on the backfields. So you have a legit starter who has plenty of starting experience in baseball, just happened to play for the Rockies at Coors Field, but maybe he has 1 or 2 good years left in that arm. Maybe he comes out of nowhere and grabs the rotation. Walker Buehler, same thing. Walker Buehler is an extremely talented pitcher. Hasn't been that way the last couple of years, but I think that he's very motivated, and I like motivated players. You don't want players that don't have anything to prove, because if they don't have anything to prove, then why would they work super hard? But you got Walker Buehler, who obviously starting experience, and he could probably come out of the bullpen if they needed him to, which the bullpen is stacked already. Then you got Griffin Canning. He's going to be coming off of an Achilles injury, but Griffin Canning was a guy who low risk, huge reward, coming off of the best year of his career. He's got ERAs that are high in his career, but I think it adds just another guy to put pressure on the 4th and this 5th spot. I think back to all of these guys, really, they're going to benefit from pitching at Petco Park. Obviously, Walker Buehler has a lot of experience. German Marquez has a lot of experience as well. And so Tristan McKenzie was a guy who was signed a long time ago. We've kind of forgotten about him. I know I just mentioned him, but JP Sears, Marco Gonzalez, like there's going to be a lot of competition for the last 2 spots, but I'm really going to say just the last spot. There's going to be a ton of competition, and that's exactly what you want. You have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have like 7 guys for 1 spot almost, which is crazy, which is great, but that's a ton of competition that's about to happen for 1 spot. And who knows whether these guys are able to, I don't know, work their way into a different role, maybe in the bullpen or something. There's lots of things that can happen. As Clay said on the chat, you can never have too much pitching, or you can never have enough pitching. That's absolutely right. You can never have enough pitching. We saw the last couple of years. Darvish isn't going to be here for this year, so you're going to need many, 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 many options. But that's what they did over the weekend. They brought in a lot of options. And again, I'm not saying that any of these guys, because I can hear it from some Padres fans out there. I'm not saying that any of these guys are going to come in and be aces for the team. All they need to do is their job, which is keep it close while they're in the game and not let the Padres get too far behind out the gate. Like, remember last year, it seemed like 5-6 games in a row the other team would start with a home run. I think it was actually like 2 or 3. But that's their job. Do not allow a bunch of runs on the board. Just keep the team in it. Okay. What's next on the list of things to do? We'll talk, you know what? We were talking about how coaches are now criticizing players in college sports. I want to talk about that. We have the daily gripe, and I know that I'm missing another topic that I wanted to talk about. So we will definitely talk about players and coaches criticizing players in college sports and the daily gripe when we get back here on the Skraby Show.
Quinn and Chris.
All right, final segment of the Skraby Show. And I just looked up at the TV after I teased that I'm going to talk about these college coaches calling out their players. But I looked up at the TV, and UCLA is playing Michigan State in Michigan. And at halftime, I don't know if the game has restarted, but at halftime, UCLA was losing 43-23. And Mick Cronin is someone who hates, it seems like, hates when his team has to travel like it is, like they do. But I will keep you up to date if it gets a little crazier, because now Mick Cronin's post games for UCLA are kind of must see. Can't say TV anymore. Must see internet TV. I don't know. I need to come up with a new thing. I got a comment from, I'm sorry, Arnolfo, and it was in Spanish, which I kind of appreciate because I've been trying to learn Spanish. And by the way, I know that there are many people out there that can speak Spanish and English, and more props to you, because I am trying to learn Spanish, and it's not easy. Not easy. I've been watching, like, oh gosh, what are they called? Now I'm forgetting the name of them. They're like the soap operas in Spanish. Oh my gosh, why can't I think of the name of those shows? Anyway, I've been told by a lot of people, watch those because and put on the English subtitles, because you will be able to learn that way. But here's what they messaged me. Lo importante es que tenemos los pitchers a trabajar moviendo bien las rotaciones. So I kind of I knew it was important, is having pitchers to work. But here's the translation for everybody. The important thing is that we have pitchers to work with, keeping the rotations moving well. That's what the translation says. And that is true. The important thing, lo importante es que tenemos los pitchers a trabajar. There you go. We have pitchers to work with. Thank you, Arnolfo, for commenting. Okay, I'm gonna play this clip of Nick Castellanos, because I think a lot of people, telenovelas, that's it. Thank you guys on the chat. Telenovelas. They're very, very emotional. Let me tell you. There's lots going on in telenovelas, but I've been watching those to try to learn Spanish. Nick Castellanos. I think a lot of people are curious as to who Nick Castellanos is, things of that nature. Well, he was asked by the media yesterday, what kind of player are you at this stage in your career?
Well, I'm definitely somebody that never shies away from the opportunity to play. You know, I take pride in being available each and every day. And as far as what kind of player I am at this point in my career, we're going to find out. You know, it's a new start. It's a new vibe. There's new energy here. I'm excited to see how I can fit into whatever role they need me to be.
One of those roles will likely be DH quite a bit. How comfortable are you in that? It's kind of a unique position to play.
Sure, I can get used to it. You know, just find something that works for me.
All right. I like it. I like the attitude. I never really thought that when he was going to come in, he was going to just be a jerk and he was going to mess up the clubhouse or anything like that. But the things that you're learning about Nick Castellanos is that he is a good guy. He might just be a little, I don't want to say off because that's not right. He's who he is. That's what we've heard about Nick Castellanos. But anyway, we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks here at spring training. But it's a good signing, and hopefully it leads to big things for the Padres. KG says telenovelas make the soap opera passions look grounded by comparison. Yes. There was one I was watching, Eccentric. Thank you, Dominic. There was one I was watching about how this kid wanted to dress as a goth, but the mom did not want the kid to dress as a goth. And the kid was very upset and said that, and this is in the telenovela, basically the kid was saying that none of the friends are going to like them if they don't dress like a goth. And the mom was not having it with the goth thing. That is one of the episodes I watched. All right. Here's some audio from Kansas State, now fired coach Jerome Tang. And his team lost last week pretty bad. And here's what he had to say after the game.
Blessed to do this, but this was embarrassing. These dudes do not deserve to wear this uniform. There will be very few of them in it next year. I'm embarrassed for the university. I'm embarrassed for our fans, our student section. You know, it is just ridiculous. We got practice at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, and we will get this thing right. I have no answer, no words. So y'all got two questions. So whoever want to ask two questions, I'll answer.
I gotta say that's the calmest dressing down a team has ever received. But Jerome Tang, quote, here's the main part that people are talking about. This was embarrassing. These dudes do not deserve to wear this uniform. There will be very few of them in it next year. It is just ridiculous. We have practice at 6 a.m. tomorrow, which is very early for practice. Let me tell you. I don't know anyone who wants to go play some hardcore college basketball at 6 a.m., but I also didn't do that when I was in college. But here's my thing. Chris and Tony were saying, hey, these guys need to, treat their players a little bit better, and they didn't say it in that way. But with this new era of NIL, I don't have any issue with a coach calling out his team. If a player is getting paid to play, that is their job. And if they're not doing their job, then it's okay. It's a-okay for me now to criticize a college player. If a coach feels like their player is doing such a bad job that they need to be called out in the media, then that's on the player, I think. You're making, and Kansas State is a big program in the Big 12. You're making lots of money to play college basketball. That is your job. And so I push back against athletes sometimes because I think that it's just not as easy in the real world to get the leeway that athletes get. I don't see how one of us here on the station isn't doing their job. I don't see how we wouldn't get fired. It wouldn't be a thought. I mean, maybe they would talk to me first and try to figure out what's going on. But at a certain point, this is my job, and if I'm not doing it, they need to get rid of me. And so if these kids, I don't know much about the Kansas State program, but if these kids are getting paid and they're just kind of going through the motion and practicing the games, then I am fine with someone calling them out because this is something that they need to learn. I don't know how many of these guys are going to go on to play NBA basketball. It doesn't seem like a lot of these guys are going to go on to play NBA basketball. So some of these guys are definitely going to have to find real world jobs. And I'm also thinking that if you're a player and you are, looking at a real world job after you end your college basketball career, you're probably not the person who is not trying as hard because you know that your spot's up. But I push back against it all the time. Who cares? These kids are making a ton of money. These student athletes are making millions of dollars now. So if they're not doing their job, tell them. It's almost, to me, kind of doing a disservice to them by not letting them know that they're doing it wrong. Like, there have been, over the years, there have been people that have come in here and wanted to, get in a radio and everything. And then you could see the ones that really care and really try hard. And then you could see the ones that are just kind of going through it for the motions. But now that they're being paid, that was my big argument before. These players are not being paid, so I'm not going to criticize them because they're still amateur athletes. But now they're not amateur athletes. They are professional athletes. And you may say, well, they're not actually professional athletes. You're getting paid to play basketball. That is a profession. So you can't just get handed $1 million and then slack off all year. I have zero issues with this coach doing this, at like no issues whatsoever. And I know that's not like the most popular take on it, but it's something that I think is very important for people to think about, because you still have to work hard if you get that either scholarship or spot on the team. All right, that's it for my soapbox about college players and whether or not we can criticize them. We still got the daily gripe coming up, and I believe I have a good one. I just wanted to hit on something real quick about the MLBPA, the Players Association. Executive Director Tony Clark resigned today after an internal investigation revealed an inappropriate relationship with his sister-in-law, who was hired by the union in 2023. Now, I have read these stories about 1 million times, and I have not found one that said what the inappropriate relationship means. So we still got to figure that out. But he did hire his sister-in-law, which can go in weird directions. And I'm not being naive here. I think I know what inappropriate relationship means, but I don't want to put that into their mouth because they actually haven't said that. And that seems like a very awkward situation. Your sister-in-law. I have a sister-in-law. I can't even imagine. That would be so strange. But Tony Clark is resigning. Now, you may remember a few months ago, or more than a few months ago, but the NFLPA, one of the executive directors of the NFL Players Association, had to step down after a thorough review because they were using money. I believe they were using money to go to strip clubs for lunch or something. And so it was not their money, but they were using it anyway. So that guy had to step down. Why can't it just seems like we don't have any trustworthy people leading anything anymore. And I know there are trustworthy people out there, but it just seems like the people that have lots of visibility, the sports people, business people, politicians, that's always been a thing now. Like, we just can't have anyone trustworthy anymore. Like, Tony Clark seemed like a good guy. Tony Clark seemed like a guy who I thought players really trusted, and maybe players still do trust. They actually didn't vote in a new MLBPA president today because Chris Bassett said, we want to make sure we have all the information before we just hire someone who's going to take us into the negotiations. And that is what I think is the biggest loss here, is that you're going to get a guy who did the last negotiations, and Tony Clark, he's not going to be around for these negotiations anymore. So, like, this couldn't have happened at a worse time for the Major League Baseball Players Association. But again, it's just, it makes me sad. It does. It makes me sad that where you just have corruption at the highest level of sports and everything. I just want good people to have positions. Why can't any of us have these positions? Anyway, I guess they were Tony Clark and others were scheduled to tour all 30 clubhouses in spring training. And their first one was supposed to happen today, 8 a.m. It did not happen. It did not happen. Here's what Marcus Simeon said. This is happening during the investigation is not overly surprising, but it still hurts. It's still something I'm processing, and just want our player group to move forward this year and be able to have a good year of negotiating with leadership that cares about what players want. So there you go. Tony Clark was leading the players. Chris says it sounds like it was leaked by a certain commissioner to help his end of the negotiations. Hey, I'm not putting that past anyone. I don't know how Tony Clark, yeah, I can, never mind. I take that back. I was thinking about it on the air. But it definitely does not. I wouldn't be surprised if we found out, hey, Rob Manfred leaked this stuff, or Rob Manfred's office leaked this stuff. Anyway, here we go.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
Oh, the chat is having a lot of fun right now with puns. All right, here's my Daily Gripe, and I'm sorry, I was once one of these people, but I was once someone who drove this type of car. But my Daily Gripe for today is the Priuses that drive insane. It drives me nuts when a Prius or some other electric hybrid vehicle comes flying by at like 100 miles an hour. Number one, I used to drive a Prius, mainly because I had no other choice. But I know that it's hard to get up to 100 in those cars. But it seems like Prius drivers, and we're not even talking about Tesla drivers. Tesla drivers are a whole nother Daily Gripe. Prius drivers, you bought the car, I'm assuming, because you wanted to have, you want to be good to the environment. You bought the car, I'm assuming, because you wanted to save on gas. You bought the car, I'm assuming, because you are a responsible driver. And those cars aren't cheap. But my Daily Gripe today, aggressive Prius drivers. Like, you should not be driving your car at 100. It's not made for it. It's probably going to fall apart one day. But I don't understand it. I also don't understand someone. I've already been down this road a million times, but I also don't understand someone who goes around me and gets in my lane just to slow down. I don't get it. Anyway, that's it for me tonight. I'll be back tomorrow with another Skraby Show. We also have Gwen and Chris at 2 p.m. Hope everybody has a great night. Be safe. Don't drive Priuses dangerously.